BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and let's talk about Lesbians. And before you ask, here's a question some of you have. Why the hell didn't I talk about a Pride-related content until the end of the month? Blame the heat. May was a good month for the channel, but June has had a bunch of issues affecting me from my mental health to other factors behind the scenes. My apologies, so I plan on making it up to y'all. In the meantime, to make it up to you this month, the title of this video may confuse you. See, the psycho-lesbian trope is typically seen as a lesbian character is portrayed as mentally unstable or dangerous because she's a lesbian, has an unrecruited love for a straight woman that results in them doing questionable things that range from stalking to outright kidnapping. And yeah, the argument tends to be seen if you're not straight, you're crazy, or be bisexual for men to enjoy. That being said, no one's saying lesbian characters can't be messed up as anyone else. Same with gay, bi, trans, and others. But my issue is that especially in stories where romance is at least somewhat prevalent, these characters end up getting the short end of the stick. No development, hated by the audience, or don't get a happy ending on their romance at all. I'm not going to talk about a lot of examples since I'm just going to go and talk about the ones that I'm familiar with. Heck, apparently Marvel Comics has had a lot of lesbian and bisexual female characters, and they've had a lot of psycho-lesbian in that role too. Sken married an older man and killed him for his money. Mankiller started out as a man-hating feminist, something not represented in feminism's true goals. Molly von Richtofen was a yandere who assaulted anyone who eyed her partner. And the heroes, well, technically they're fine, though noted Lightspeed was a former child star with the mental baggage from that, while Carolina Dean is bipolar. Like I said, trauma doesn't define who you're romantically attracted to. But in the comments, tell me who's your favorite LGBTQIA character in the comments below, and let's just get started. So, to been coping with my mental health issues, I decided to start watching Sweet Revenge 2. And I've really been enjoying the show, and one of the major supporting characters, Rookie, seems to be pretty cold on the surface, but is actually friendly and loyal since her friendship with the main character, Ojina, started when the latter saw some pick-me's accusing her of rushing into them when it was the other way around. And no, she's not trans, she's butch. Plus, she's pretty fun. She used to hang out with delinquents until they started bullying and harassing other people, and then she fought them. Also helps that her dad is a boxing coach and named her after a parody of Rocky. So, is this going to be about her? No, it's actually about her childhood friend, Ban Hani, the girl she saved. So, Rookie was best friends with Hani since middle school because of what happened with the bullies. However, this led to Hani low-key becoming obsessed with Rookie, and by that I mean she's in love with her and just doesn't have the balls. Wait, no, she's a girl. Tacos? Tacos, to admit it. So, what's the problem? See, Hani was victimized so much and fell in love that she enrolled in the main character's school to be with her, but then started getting super clingy about it instead of just being honest about her feelings when none of Rookie's friends were opposed or being rude to her, especially since the other guys had a crush on her too. In a moment where Rookie was trying to blow off an eyelash that fell inside Gina's eyes, and from the angle where she approached them, it looked like a kiss. Keep in mind, before this, she set up Gina to have a blind date that was really a trap to have the guy rough her up enough. Don't worry, it didn't go through. Gina caught Miss Jung entering a car and forgot her shoes, so she did what I did when those damn buses refused to stop at the locations where people are supposed to meet them at to head into the vehicle, and got lucky with a traffic jam to hand it to her. But the guy was so pissed he ended the date, so nothing bad happened, thankfully. So both her crush and the main girl want to forgive her, but instead of moving 3 spaces to the left to see if, or just ask if they're dating, Hani decides the best course of action is to stalk them from above the classroom and then drop a plant on Gina's head. And it's only intercepted by Rookie sacrificing herself and getting knocked out. Now, if this was Carrie, that would have been a fatal KO, but Rookie ends up surviving, and Gina, wondering why the hell Hani would do that to her best friend since the girl never bothered to actually talk to her, writes her name in the revenge note, which results in every photo they've taken together, and by they, I mean Rookie and Hana, gone from her phone. Now, compared to the other revenges in the show up to that point, this one isn't as bad as what's happened before. And for reference, since this is the first time I'm talking about this show on this channel, the past revenges have been video evidence of a bully trying to frame a victim for cheating in episode 1 when they have planned it themselves, an older bully being tricked into returning the money she extorted from the main character in episode 2, a groomer and kidnapper getting arrested, episode 3, and a scammer manipulating teens with self-esteem issues to give them money for plastic surgery, eventually getting arrested in episode 5. The only revenge that wasn't as bad was when their classmates who stole the money for their funds for a future event in episode 4 got caught. And out of the 6, that one was the only one of the 6 culprits so far that actually owned up to it and had a much better resolution. So Hani had the perfect opportunity to just talk to Gina and Rookie, clear the air, especially since the girl she thinks her crush is also into is actively in a love triangle with 2 other guys, and it probably would have resulted in Gina giving her advice to just go for it and ask her out. I'm not saying bully victims don't become bullies, some definitely do, but Revenge Note needs a villain, so how can you have both without making the lesbian character completely irredeemable? Easy. Just have her bullies overhear it and claim that they're her friends now, want to make things right, and then they drop the plant onto the girls, but Hani tries to stop it in time and have her admit to Gina that she's in love with Rookie, just as Rookie wakes up, takes responsibility, and Gina could put their names in the Revenge Note instead. So at worst, they'd be suspended or placed under house arrest, and at least Rookie and Hani could start over and see if something's there. That's still a better ending than accidentally knocking out your crush to hurt, who you accidentally wrongly accuse of also being in love with them, all your photo memories being erased, and her faking amnesia of only you to make sure she never sees you again. Told you guys, lesbians in romance have it rough. Speaking of lesbians, let's talk about Komi-san Can't Communicate. Because from what I saw and read, I really like the series, but there's discourse on whether or not the series should have focused on the romance or Komi's goals for 100 friends, even though I'd argue having both is the point of the story, and while there are some friends I prefer, I still think they're necessary for the story since the first episode and chapter starts with the goal Tadano is willing to help Komi accomplish. But there's easily the most controversial member of the cast and her friend group, Yamai-ren, and she did not have the best first impression on Western audiences. To make a long story short, Yamai has a crush on Komi to obsessive levels, and not only does she stalk Komi, she also ends up stalking him, kidnaps him to her room, and threatens to off him to get rid of him and be closer to Komi. But Komi puts an end to all of that by telling her she decides her friendships, not anyone else. To be fair, Yamai apologizes, but because she doesn't know about Komi's communication issues, she thinks Komi doesn't like her and decides to use the same knife she threatened Tadano with to end herself until the others stop and explain it to her. And since the anime can't go too dark, they changed it to chopsticks, which I still don't trust any sociopath with. They'd find some way to end up on the kill counts. And to her credit, she does show signs of doing better, cutting down on her pervertive antics, bringing Nanaka out of her loneliness despite their rivalry, helping others with mistakes. And I get this next part is for comedy because the series points out her actions are not good at all. But holy hell is it super annoying that after all of that, in year 2, the only reason she's not as effective is that Kishi was going out of her way to protect Komi from her numerous times. And the moment Kishi took a break from protecting Komi after putting herself in danger, Yamai decided to go after her so bad that Komi was fleeing. Anytime Yamai could actually grow and change, she tries to avoid it and knows it's going to be temporary. In chapter 312, huge spoiler warnings for potentially a season 3 or a season 4. Skip at least 30 seconds ahead in 3, 2, 1. Yamai finds out Komi and Tadano are dating, and she doesn't accept it, though she does admit that Tadano's not awful and would prefer him to a stranger. And then you see her in a monologue where she said that to get on Komi's good side in case they break up later on. And you can obviously tell why people don't like her at all. This video is getting long, but I want to talk about a few more characters in short fashion that also get accused of this label. I don't know what the perception of Soifun is in the Bleach community. I think it's mixed, but I don't think she fits the model. She's a good person at heart. Everyone is manipulated by Aizen, and she just missed the person who matters the most in her life in Yoruichi the most. So I wouldn't necessarily associate her with that label. Then there's Shirai Kyokyo from A Scientific Magic Railgun from the A Certain Magical Index franchise, who sexually harasses her best friend. Anytime Mikoto's involved, she either teleports a spy on Mikasa, steal her stuff, and even steal her clothes, and constantly tries to attack Toma to have Mikoto all for herself. Though maybe this happens more in the anime than the light novel or manga, The bright spot is that when things are heavy, she's there to support her friend, and when it comes to everything else in life, she's stern and focused. But this girl seriously needs to find someone else. Toga's bisexual, but I wouldn't count her for this either because she's aware of her situation since she's not just psycho for the sake of it. Her situation is played with a tragedy and themes of individuality and acceptance. And I'm on both sides regarding her fate because I think both choices fit the narrative. But in terms of romance, she's a weird case since for a story like this, there's not really anyone you could reasonably pair her up with if her fate was more positive, especially since we know Ochako's feelings for Deku are more stronger than her feelings for Toga. And for mostly Rosario and Vampire regarding the manga, I remember Kyoka getting a lot of hate more than Aqua, even though both of them are in love with Mocha. The good news is that Cocoa does develop into someone who cares about her siblings and doesn't judge them or her new friends, and she sort of gets a love interest at the end who's like 4 years older than her and likes when girls look young, but they don't exactly realize what the hell being a boyfriend and girlfriend actually is, and just like fighting each other a lot, so kind of works despite the uncomfortable tones of it. But unfortunately, I have not been able to see every anime in the world, so I feel like there's some people want me to talk about that I just can't because I want to be fair and based off what I've experienced with the shows that I talked about. I think the best way to handle this trope is to explore the why the character became who they are and give them a love interest that's not the main character to help make them grow and change throughout the story. Similar to how Juvia from Fairy Tail worked if Grey was a woman who was honest with his feelings and her quirks were more toned down and less sociopathic in nature. That being said, any character that reminds you of this, please let me know in the comments below since I do know some people have criticized this in the past. Glad to finally get a Pride-related video out, and I hope you all have an amazing day. So, BIP Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.